I'm from and work with Molly Higgins and the Sierra Club, and we partner on a lot of things. Norm and John have been great partners to us, and I think we've explored a lot of issues together and learned with each other as well on what to do in the legislature and Utilities Commission. So thanks for having me. There's so much to cover, so I have 20 minutes, so what I'm going to do is try to jump into how we're regulated in energy in North Carolina, talk about some of the policies to reduce demand, and then focus in on rate decoupling, which is a term that possibly many of us have heard, but there's a lot of variations and moving parts to it, and it's something that our Utilities Commission isn't terribly keen on yet. Quickly, this is our mission statement to ensure a sustainable future in North Carolina by promoting energy efficiency and renewable energy. And our nonprofit organization does that in 3 ways: in public policy, economic development, and education. But for us, education is primarily generating information and bringing that information to our society and especially our government. We're 31 years old. That's roughly our budget in membership. We have 7 full-time, 2 part-time staff. And I'd like to point out Van Crandall. It's been great working with Van the last several years, and he has a long history in our organization as well. And he certainly is very familiar with a lot in what we work on in sustainable energy, and is making great contributions. So the North Carolina's current energy policy. Yesterday there was an event in Charlotte that I spoke at along with our new Assistant Secretary of Energy, John Morrison. John Morrison is in our Department of Commerce. And John pointed out a problem with our regulation right now in North Carolina. He said, we only have 2 criteria in our state's energy policy on which we make our energy decisions in natural gas and electricity. That's price and reliability. So by price, what he means is, for example, the cents per kilowatt hour rate that we pay for our electricity. The problem with only looking at price is that we're not looking at our total energy costs, our total energy bills. And so if we just try to keep our cents per kilowatt hour electricity rate as low as possible, what we're doing is avoiding anything, including energy efficiency, that may make the rate go up, but as we become more energy efficient, our total utility bills come down, or they stay flat. But it's better than huge increases every single year with no control over what happens in our utility bills. Actually, can you jump back really quick? Make sure. Oh, yep. Sorry, we're on top of it, Drew.
Read your mind.
So we are what's called a regulated state. Generally, you can split the United States into 2 groups: regulated and competitive or deregulated. More than half of the U.S. states are like us. For the most part, we're regulated. What does that mean? Well, it means that we have utilities who have been given a monopoly role in our economy to deliver electricity, and each state has different criteria that they need to meet in order to get a guaranteed profit margin and get a guaranteed customer base and geographic region. As I noted, in our state, we really only have 2 criteria, price and reliability, but other states have sometimes different criteria. For us, they're vertically integrated, and Duke, Progress, and Dominion are those. But then our co-ops, our electric membership co-ops that serve most of our rural territories, serve 29% of our citizens, of our electric customers. And they are regulated much less by our states or municipalities. So there's 2 totally different regulatory environments in energy in our state. And then there's a third, natural gas, which has been decoupled. And we'll talk about what does decoupling mean here in a second. So what is the effect of our current energy policy on efficiency? Well, in short, what I want to convey today is that for the utilities, whether or not to be energy efficient isn't an ideological decision, it's purely a financial decision at its core. And our regulatory environment, the way we set up our regulation, gives them all of the wrong financial incentives and motivations. Specifically, they want to avoid anything that does some of these outcomes, like increases the rate at which we review their costs or publicly delve into their costs or make their costs more transparent, because that introduces a risk for them. They have a perverse incentive to waste energy and minimize the consumer's understanding of energy, because the more we understand it, the more we want to apply energy-saving solutions, install solar panels or a small wind turbine, and all of those things that we do as we understand energy reduce their sales. So if they're selling less, they're making less money. It's pretty much that simple in the North Carolina regulatory environment. So they have gone to great lengths over the past few decades in lobbying and in the regulatory setting to try to maintain an environment where they just have a lot of control over energy and they keep as much information to the regulators and themselves as possible. That's starting to change in North Carolina, I think, because of the work of all our organizations. So how can we change policy to advance energy efficiency? So the real question is not necessarily how can we change policy or what policies could we advance, but how could we change the financial incentives or financial motivations of the electric utilities in particular in North Carolina so that we can all really accelerate our use of energy efficiency. And so the assumption is that the best policy is the one that will drive the largest, fastest, and most long-term sustainable use of things that save energy or avoid energy costs. That's kind of a narrow definition, but it's common ground. That is like the starting place for regulators and utilities and anyone who's interested in using less energy, because finance fits really well in that goal. So rate decoupling is the most common approach, and natural gas, as I noted, is decoupled in North Carolina. And so if we took policies and the policy options that are out there that are available to us and ranked them in priority loosely, if we can go straight through all the layers of the onion of complexity in our regulatory environment, get right to the core of the issue, it is this profit and revenue incentive for the utilities. And if we could go at that by changing the rate structure itself, the regulatory structure itself, that'd be great. And what we could do is create an environment where us and the utilities have the common purpose, the common interest, the shared interest, to be as energy efficient as possible, because they would be financially whole and based on their criteria set, and we would enjoy the maximum of benefit from energy efficiency. That is a political loser right now, because politicians don't gain anything from going head on against the utilities in our state and advocating to cut to the quick like that. They're just going to get beat up by the powers and interests and the media and so on and so forth if they do that. So there's steps we can take towards that as a state. So the second tier is things that give customers a price signal. So for example, there's all this talk about smart grid. So part of smart grid, if we do it right, is that we all have little readouts inside our house that tell us how much energy we're using and how much it's costing us in real time. And we can react to that price signal in our homes or businesses and say, wow, I didn't realize I was using that much right now. What could possibly be using that much energy right now? And you go and find out. Or you say, I didn't realize I was paying that much right now. And what could possibly be tearing that much money out of my wallet and my bank account? What can I do? And so whichever way you look at it, whatever your set of motivation to address climate change or to just manage your household or business budget better, the real-time price signal is instrumental in furthering our understanding. We just don't have it in most places right now in North Carolina. Why? Well, the utilities, we went to Duke Energy's pilot facility in Charlotte for a smart grid, and they said, well, one thing, we just don't know how we recover the costs. If we did this in all of our